When you've gone through a messy breakup, trying to move on too soon usually backfires. This is why we call it the rebound. After a breakup, there's a moment where people start to ask a question that sounds reasonable, but actually skips the most important part. They'll ask, how do I move on? Or how long should this take? Or when will I feel ready again? And those questions make sense emotionally, but somatically they're premature because moving on isn't something that you intellectually decide. It's something that becomes possible once your nervous system has actually reorganized. Most people don't realize this because we're taught to treat breakups as emotional events, something to process or understand or outthink. But what actually happens after a breakup isn't just emotion, it's disorganization. Your rhythm is off. Your attention keeps snapping backward into the past. Your energy is either too high and keyed up or too low and collapsed. And your sense of self feels unstable in ways that are hard to name. And then we try to make life decisions from inside that state. And that's how repetition or looping in old patterns happens. People date too soon and then they recreate the same pattern. They stay single, but they remain internally attached. They distance themselves and wonder why nothing sticks. Not because they're avoiding healing, but because the system hasn't actually regulated yet. Before I go further, I want to pause here for one orientation point because it'll make the rest of this video a lot more useful. Different nervous systems re-regulate in different sequences. So what helps one person stabilize can quietly destabilize another. If you want to know which orientation your system tends to default to under stress and load, there is a free, short Somatic Skins Quiz assessment linked in the description below. You can pause this video, go down and take that, and then come back and watch the rest. What you'll get isn't superficial advice or another label. It'll simply show you how your system organizes under pressure so that you're not forcing yourself into the wrong fix as you listen to this. Now, let's talk about what re-regulation actually means. Re-regulation isn't about feeling better. It's about restoring internal capacity. It's the nervous system remembering how to hold itself, orient forward, metabolize sensation without relying on the old bond to do that work. And that rebuilding happens in a very specific order. The first thing that has to return is structure. After breakup, many people feel emotionally off without realizing that their body has lost its organization. Posture softens or breath will shallow. Movement becomes less intentional. And even when life looks normal from the outside, the system isn't carrying load cleanly anymore. When the structure drops out, then their felt sensation becomes overwhelming. Emotions feel bigger, not because they are bigger, but because there's nothing containing them. Think a river without banks. This is why trying to process everything emotionally too early often backfires. Without structure, feeling becomes flooding. The nervous system doesn't get relief, it gets louder. Once structure stabilizes, energy regulation becomes possible. This is where the system relearns how to mobilize and recover without swinging into urgency or collapse. Some systems need help coming back online through load, training, movement, or breath pressure. Others need help slowing down so that intensity doesn't keep spilling into thoughts and emotions. This stage isn't about calm, it's about accuracy. The ability to meet the actual demands of the moment without over or under responding. When energy begins to regulate, something important happens. Attention comes back. not through focus hacks or mental discipline, but because attention is no longer being hijacked just to keep the system upright. This is where people will notice that their compulsive replaying starts to ease. Their attention starts to return to their body, their environment, their current life. This shift isn't forced. It emerges naturally when structure and energy stop competing for control. Only then does identity begin to reorganize. This is where many people think that they should start redefining themselves, reclaiming values, deciding what they want next. But identity can't stabilize until the body can hold tension without collapsing or bracing. When identity does come back online, something subtle but unmistakable changes. The urge to reach out loses intensity. So that longing just becomes information rather than a compulsion. Boundaries stop feeling like effort. You don't convince yourself you're ready to move on, you just notice that you are. And this is the part where most advice never names. If you try to date, reinvent yourself, or start fresh before these capacities return, the nervous system will borrow regulation from the next available source. Another person, another goal, another intensity. And that isn't healing. That's just substitution. Re-regulation is quieter than people expect. It's rarely dramatic. It can even feel boring compared to the intensity of the breakup itself. But it's what makes the next chapter genuinely different instead of familiar. Different nervous systems need different entry points into this process. Some need structure first. Some need energy containment. Some need attentional retraining. Some need identity repair. This is also why timelines don't help and why forcing yourself forward often delays recovery. If you want clarity on what your system needs first, the Somatic Skins Quiz, as I mentioned below, will give you that orientation. And if you want guided support rebuilding these capacities in sequence, either for yourself or for your clients as a somatic practitioner, this is exactly the work that we do inside of the Prestige. Not by fixing symptoms or talking through scenarios, but by teaching you how to restore coherence. In the final video of this series, we're going to talk about what integration actually looks like. Not by being over it, but by organizing enough to engage again without dragging the past forward. That's when moving on stops being an effort and it starts being a consequence of capacity. So I'll see you there. If you've enjoyed the series so far, please do consider liking and subscribing. It helps the channel out a lot. And bye for now.